How you doing, Lisa?
I'm doing
I
great.
appreciate you. The 29th. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, I'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good interview, guys.
All right, peace,
Later.
Steve.
Lisa, I appreciate you coming in, Lisa.
You got it. Great to see you both today. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I appreciate you coming on with Smitty and his young takes. Me and you are closer than age. I think we kind of see the world a little closer than this young guy right here. Who
I don't know.
I gotta
I don't
thank him.
know. I really, age does not define my thought process because I keep a lot of young people in my corner and they keep me grounded to what's actually important today. So let's see whose side I lean on more with the topics we're going to cover here.
Hey, you have to. You know what? I try to think. I have a daughter. I try to think I'm the least sexist human I on this earth, but everyone thinks I am because I say the truth a lot. But anyway, I was like, Lisa, let me look into this thing. Not that she's a woman and don't know anything about sports, because I've had great women on here that know a lot about sports. You've been on Liv Mood show. I watched that. I've had Liv on here several times. Joe Madden, who speaks, Kelly in Vegas, Barstool, friends of mine. And I've been watching your stuff, and I'm like, I gotta say, I'm like, not that I'm shocked at it to be impressed, but I'm like, people need to start understanding that the women in this business know more than a lot of these men, contrary to belief.
Well, I can't say who knows more, but I will say this. The women in broadcast are some of the most supportive, kind, prop each other up, just go to the end of the world, run through a wall for each other. And once you enter into this space, I entered in 2013 with SiriusXM. I realized something. I realized I've never had more follows from other women getting in my best ball drafts. I'm hosting at Fan Tracks, women that I'm excited to meet at the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio in August. Just women that I've been tweeting with or speaking with on Instagram or Facebook for years. And so the community is so much stronger, sharing contacts. It's really different. So it's cool to kind of be at the beginning of the fact of we're all looking at things in a more equal way, right? But I don't see men going out there and just following all their competitors and introducing them to each other. It's a really cool thing, and I really enjoy it. I love fantasy football, how it's brought so many different walks of life together. People in different countries can draft with me, like all of these things. But women really do go out of their way to bring out the best in each other, share contacts, and just really help each other grow.
You know, the problem, before Smitty gets into this, there's a truth about it. No pun intended. It is a small dick syndrome type of mindset men have. They have a small dick syndrome type of mindset. This is all a dick measuring contest to men. That's why they don't support each other in the business. I'm just being honest. They do not support each other in the same way that a woman would because of what you just said.
It's funny you say this real quick. So I have a great group of guys that work at my building that we just talk sports all the time. As soon as I moved in, we started talking fantasy football, sports gambling, like Sundays, like I go down to the front desk, we talk about what we're betting. So the other day I'm in an elevator and it's me and one of my guys that I talk to all the time and a worker that was redoing something in an apartment and he's carrying his toolbox, whatever. And so we're talking about, Dalvin Cook and Saquon. And, I'm going through yards and years and games played and this and that. And so when the elevator opens and that guy goes to get out, he looked at me, he's like, that's just weird. And he walked out. And I looked at my guy and I'm like, see, men get kind of tripped up when a woman has gathered this type of information. But guess what? We have the same remote control. We have the same access to Amazon Prime. We can also watch games on Apple. We have DirecTV. Like, we have the same things you guys do. It's a choice of what we choose to watch. And a lot of women really lean into sports heavy. It's a great way to stay fit, stay healthy, and stay a part of the community.
I love it. I love it, Lisa. And speaking about sports, obviously you're out there in New York, and New York football fans, they have a lot to cheer for these days with the Giants, the Jets. I want to ask you, first of all, what's the energy been like in New York City with, obviously Aaron Rodgers is in New York. The Giants are on the rise with adding Darren Waller, and there's so much positive energy for the most part has been around the Jets and the Giants. What has the energy been like in New York around those teams?
I think the Giants are really lucky to be going through this conundrum with Saquon during the part where Aaron Rodgers is in New York for the Jets, right? It balances out because the excitement is all like, I listen to Greeny every morning. He's a diehard Jets fan. Couldn't be happier that Hard Knocks is going to be covering the Jets, all of those things. But New York fans are incredibly disappointed of the lack of consideration for Saquon Barkley in the situation that the Giants are going to be in. Let's face it, the kid put up 10 touchdowns last year, over 1,300 yards, played 16 games. You guys are willing to eliminate that from your offense when your own quarterback, who you paid a lot, only had 15 touchdowns? Your running back had 5 less touchdowns than your quarterback that you paid. I can't believe they couldn't put it together. Now, look, there's so many ways to look at this. We saw Lev Bell do this years ago. It didn't really work out. But at the same time, what people need to understand is a running back's career can last 3 to 5 years. They're very lucky if they're still playing in their 30s and they're still making money in their 30s. So whatever money they make, they have to be sure it's going to last them for the rest of their lives. So I get into these arguments, people, about, what is $20 million to an NFL player? I'm like, well, after luxury tax, it's $10 million. After he pays his agent and his lawyer, it's about $9 million. You really have to take into consideration how small that dwindles down to. And when you look at players like, go to another sport, but athletes like LeBron, who spend millions of dollars a year on their bodies to be able to play for a longer period of time. Well, now we're looking at like $5 million for the kid. So I say hold out, know your worth, but it's a slippery slope, because if Saquon doesn't play, this is not a great year for Saquon to be in this situation. We still got Dalvin Cook out there. We've got Ezekiel Elliott and Leonard Fournette, who I think will go on the cheap. I think Leonard Fournette will go on the cheap because he has had a little bit longer of a career. So I think that's how it's going to play out. And I'm seeing, Dalvin Cook is the most surprising, playing all 17 games last season, going for over almost 2,000 yards. Like, these are players that matter. These are players that have all rushed for over 200 yards in a season prior. How are you planning on making that up with your offense? Tony Pollard is not going to make the Cowboys. I'm already looking at the Cowboys so differently, because though Zeke wasn't what he has been many years in the past, that 1-2 punch with Zeke and Pollard was really powerful. I don't think Tony Pollard can handle that kind of a workload.
Right.
When did you get into sports, Lisa? Your whole life?
As a kid, yeah. I played basketball all through school, grew up going to every home Lafayette College basketball game. My mom was a basketball mom, so she cooked for the away team before they left after the game. So we got to go to every single game growing up. We saw my dad on Sundays. My dad watched football all day on Sundays, and my dad does not like sports broadcasters. So we had to watch football listening to Italian music. So I had to really know what was going on. And I had to wait till commercials to maybe ask my dad or my brother, what was that call that ref just called? Why did that happen? There was no talking during the play, and you're not getting to hear the game. So those two elements of being at all those college basketball games and all of those Sundays of not being able to hear what's going on in the game really made me understand, lean in, and love the sports. And when you grow up in the Northeast, I just think the sports love is so different in the Northeast. I lived in California for 30 years, and I couldn't even meet a guy that was wearing a sport hat that followed the team. It was always like, oh, it matches my shoes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to kill you.
Hey, Lisa, you got a huge free Gump following going on here.
Oh my gosh, free Gump. I wanted to marry Gumpy to bring him back to the U.S., but we realized we had no photos together. It's a lot tougher to do this now than it used to be. I even thought about my friends that are so good at putting people's faces on other people's photos. But I'm so bummed for Gump because he's such a part of the show. He had to be in Canada when they moved into the new awesome studios. I mean, and right now, by the way, my entire life is thrown off by the fact that Pat McAfee is on vacation this week. And look, I get it. McAfee's away. We all have to accept it. I try to plan my vacations during his vacations. So the tail end of his vacation is going to be my vacation. But then Greeny was out again today. And I'm like, I can't, when my broadcasters are out and I don't get noticed, I lose my shit. I
start getting the shakes and start itching and like.
That's why this show is on the rise. That's why this one. Obviously, I used to be on Pat's show, and Gump. I hit Gump up last night. I go, "Hey man, you got a sneak attack and come in on the show today." I would have loved to get his ass on the show and just surprise you, but I couldn't get him on. He couldn't do it today. But Gump's a good dude, man. That all those guys are. So let me ask you. I got to ask you a controversial question. Me and you talked before. I was trying to get you on like a couple years ago when we first started following each other. Here's a take I have as a coach and the alpha male guy. I'm going to come at you with the hard one. Do you agree or
my
don't?
coffee for this one?
Do you agree or not agree on this one? I do not agree, and I have a hard stance on this one, but I love to take your take because I know how educated you are on this. And I'm trying not to be sexist on this one, but I've had women on the show before and asked them this question. I don't feel that women should be football coaches. I'm sorry. That's my take. Especially not a positional coach. Not a position coach. That's my take on a position coach. Give me the real Lisa.
JB.
I'll give you my rationale, but I gotta hear yours. And are you just so mad at me right now?
Come on, that East Coast is about to come out, JB. I'll be careful.
I don't think that anyone should enter any statement with "I don't think somebody should do anything." So I'm any gender preference, pronoun, any person, anything, any race, any creed, any religion. Here we are in the US, and I'm so fortunate to travel to other countries and see how behind the times other countries that I love. I love so many places in Europe, but they don't have equality. So there's places that I go to and I'm like, man, this really bums me out. You know, I fought for equality in the industry. It was very important to me, and it still is, and it's so cool. I just did an event last weekend. These 3 young bucks that are in the military come up to me, and they thanked me for my service in the industry. And I said, the fact that you 23-year-olds still know how important it was for me to fight for equality, for equal pay on race in the industry, for the titling, for the use of people's likeness in a derogatory way. So your opinion is your opinion, and we're all allowed to have them. That's the great thing, Coach JB. I never judge anybody for their opinion because we are all allowed to embrace who we are. That's one of the things that's getting lost in today's society is if you don't band on with everybody else, you know, we're all anti-bullying. But guess what cancel culture is? It is bullying. It is bullying, caps, italicized, exclamation point. Okay.
Here's why, though, and I hope you understand why I'm gonna say this. Like, I would never say that about basketball. Here's why. There's an equal. There's an equal to the NBA, and it's called the WNBA. And you play the same game. You play the same offense. You play the same defense. You're being coached the same way as far as philosophy, ideology, et cetera, et cetera. So I can see a woman transitioning and coaching a man in that profession quite easily. It's happening right now. San Antonio Spurs has a great woman head basketball coach who's leading the summer league right now for that organization. Here's why it doesn't work in football for me, and that's why I led with shouldn't, which may be a bad term, and I agree with you. You've never played the position of left tackle to go an absolute motherfuck a left tackle who's 6'8", 330 in the NFL and tell him he took the wrong step and that he needs to double team a guy. And I don't know if it is in the best interest of the sport when a woman now is that positional coach and we're doing it basically for a show, for a tweet, for a like, for a
look, there's 2 sides to look at this. You know, sometimes bad habits are brought into a scope of a situation. You know, when you own a business, you have this decision. Do I hire somebody that's worked for somebody else that has had bad habits potentially? Or do I hire somebody that I can train and mold to be exactly what I'd like the environment to be where I am, right? You're creating that. So I don't think there's limits there because women have already proved in the sports world how much harder we are willing to work because we have to fight against the stigma and the uneducated thought process that we don't know what we're talking about or we don't know what we're doing. So I think it's smart to open it up because I think a woman's brain can sometimes work a bit differently than a man's brain. I think that we know that. So I don't want to put limits on it, but hey, that is your take, but I'm gonna in the future teach you to never say nobody should be able to do nothing.
I like that.
We have to look at everybody the same.
I like that part. And I do, and Lisa, listen, I'm with you. I think disagreements create great conversation.
Yeah.
I wish everybody wasn't so damn sensitive and oh, you're the devil. You're the devil. Here's the thing, though, Lisa. This is the issue I have. I don't believe by experience that a man in the NFL would take a woman seriously for this simple fact. Not that they don't know ball, not that they couldn't teach me something, but if Lisa Ann came out to coach me, I'm not going to be thinking correctly. Sorry. I'm going to fuck up a lot of shit because I'm looking at Lisa Ann as my coach as a beautiful, gorgeous woman. Unfortunately, that could be taken as sexist, but I think that is reality nowadays because in this locker room of what used to be men, alpha men it's kind of simmered down quite a bit. I agree. It's not the same as it once was in the 80s where we're just spitting tobacco at each other and calling each other out of our name. It's totally changed. We know because of the cell phone camera and ability and access to media coverage in there. It's changed a lot, but I still think underlying issues will still exist. Like there's still going to be that in the back of my mind thing. Like Lisa never hit the Mike Backer with a helmet. Like, you're going to have that doubt. And that's the only reason I knocked the woman coaching a professional male. That's the only
I'm going to say this, and we'll close this topic. I'm going to say this. In your generation, yeah, Coach GB, that's so real. But I'm going to tell you something because I get to be out in the environment around a lot of people. I would say let's talk about the crowd that's under 30 right now. Let's talk about young people and how they've been able to adapt to a level of equality that our generation doesn't even know how to feel. If you tell a young person, a friend of mine's son just turned 18, I had introduced him to my videographer's content. And right away, I let him know, Kay is non-binary. And now each time we text about Kay, he is so mindful about saying they and them. Automatically, first time I say it to him once, remember, it's a little bit harder for me. I still make the mistake sometimes and say she. And I realize that's a generational thing. We are conditioned differently. I work on it. But I will say this younger generation is going to be the greatest gift to the world of equality that we live in here in the US because they've been raised to adapt and pivot so quickly and not see a gender and not see that's a woman coach or that's a woman that never did this before. To them, if somebody is leading them and was given the responsibility to lead them, they're much more likely to lean in. And I think it's so beautiful. And I'm so lucky that I work with a crew that's from 21 to 30. And I have some, older people on my team as well. But that 21 to 30 has helped me evolve and has helped me appreciate what this youth that is done so differently than how we were raised.
I hear you for sure, man. Nah, that's a good point, Lisa. Definitely. Let's transition here a little bit because I want to ask you this, man. Obviously, again, you told your story. You've been a sports fan your whole life. You really got into it in 2013. I want to talk about just real quick that transition from the adult film industry to the sports world. Like when you first made that transition initially in 2013, how tough was it for you making that transition in terms of just getting the respect from the sports fans, respect from the other men? Was it a seamless transition? Was it tough for you? Let's talk about that for me.
The easiest part was the community in which I worked. The people at SiriusXM were so incredibly kind to me. My boss was awesome. As soon as he introduced me to everybody, everybody's giving me passwords to their platform so I can get more fantasy advice. Everybody's reaching out to me, asking me if I need anything. Like these people just took me in, and these people also got to witness what I was dealing with on social media. So I will say, like, the people in my sphere were amazing. Me having to reprogram my brain to realize that maybe 60 to 80% of the stuff I was going to read a day was going to be toxic and negative and disgusting. There was a 2-year span that I didn't allow any comments on my Instagram. Okay, I just decided, and my agent was like, look, you're never going to be able to make money as an influencer. I said, I'm just not ready. I'll let you know when I'm ready. And I remember it was a New Year's Eve because I always take the week between Christmas and New Year's, like, evaluate my year. What things do I want to add? What things do I want to move away from? I remember it was a New Year's Eve. I sent the text. I'm like, you know what? It's been almost 3 years. I think I'm going to allow comments. Okay. That's how long it took me to be able to accept, because on IG, you can delete comments. And I felt like I just spent all day deleting comments. So I just decided not to allow comments. And the comments were horrible. I still get them. I probably get them during football season. I'd say probably 20% of my comments are still really harsh and off-putting comments. But I have to remember that every day a new person figures out who Lisa Ann is, right?
Right.
First impressions mean a lot. So this 18-year-old goes, he finds me on some hub site, whatever. He meets me. He thinks this is what I'm still actively doing. He has no idea. And then when I use my voice in a different tone, he's appalled. It almost kills his fantasy. Like, they want to know that we are robots and all we do is that one thing, because that's the only category they have me in. So it took a lot of growing and evolving. It took me having to reel it in sometimes and say to myself, like, is it that person's fault or is it your fault for being upset about it? Because you don't know that person. You know, why are you letting that person in? But it took me years. I meet younger people like Liv, for example, who's like, oh yeah, you know, I don't worry. I can't control what other people say. Young people have been raised with the toxic levels that social media just forces into our life on the daily, and they are unaffected. But somebody of my generation who was taught, if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything at all. And if we didn't like you, we didn't talk to you. We didn't talk about you. We didn't give you life in our sphere at all, right? So it was tough. But it was worth it. And the greatest thing now is going back to all these trade shows and meeting my colleagues that I've known for years, or meeting new entertainers in the industry and giving them a copy of my book and giving them access to me and telling them, like, just so you know, whatever you want to do later is limitless as long as you stay out of the fray. Don't get in the drug scene. Don't get arrested. Don't do stuff that's not legal. Like, this is a business. And I'm always like, one of the first things I ask a stranger, which is a new, you know, entertainer in the industry, is like, how are you saving your money? And I know it seems abrupt, but if I put that there first, they then know I am the person that they will go to, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, or 10. And they'll circle back to me, and they all do. They circle back and be like, okay, I want to talk to you about money. Do you have time? So if you save your money, then you can go through all the pain to adapt and pivot to your new career, because you know deep down inside you are comfortable and you're not struggling to do this for money. You're doing this because you want to and because you can. So providing that financial freedom is a game changer. So it was difficult but awesome at the same time. And now what's cool is having so many people that just come up to me and be like, man, your rebrand has been amazing. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate it. It was brutal and I love it. It's great.
Hey, I follow you on Twitter. I don't think you followed me on Instagram, so I couldn't tag you today.
I just followed you today, and I'm so sorry I wasn't following you before.
That's love. Hey, I got a question though. I heard what you said right now, and I love your take on Twitter when you talk to Elon, because I talk to Elon like you do, and I'm like, how the hell are you allowing adult content on Twitter when we got babies watching? But then you'll ban me for saying the word fuck. It blows my mind where our priorities are. I heard what you just said about the she, him, they, and all that crap that I have to think about every day, which I don't think about because I'll never think about that, because I'm just going to call you what you are, a human. I know you, though, Lisa. I don't know you, but I know from what you say a lot of times, there's no way that you like the fact that a man you don't like the man racing a woman in swimming, for instance, right?
You know, this is such a sensitive topic, right? There's no right way to answer it. I think in my world, whatever you want to do in your personal life is your thing.
I agree.
It's not my thing. I shouldn't have to tell you what I'm doing in my personal life. I think we let the cart get before the horse quite often, and we haven't thought this through. And I think it is a disadvantage for younger athletes to be wondering, am I going to miss out on my chance to go to the Olympics because I'm not in the same class of swimmers as 20 years ago? You know, and it's a crazy time. Like, I never thought we'd be here. I'm so glad I never decided to have children, more than ever. And I never wanted kids more than ever, because it's got to be so tough. I'm sure you saw this wonderful father on TikTok last week and it went viral. a 7 and 9-year-old kid go to the doctor, and the doctor starts asking their kid all these questions about what they identify. He's like, whoa, we haven't talked to our kids about that yet. We're really rushing kids, but yet we only offer sex education in 22 states in the United States. And that comes from any kind of sex education. And by the way, those 22 states, 10 of them, their sex education is abstinence. We're not talking about STDs, which are on a rise more than the 80s. Again, we're not talking about it. We're not talking about important things. We've kind of got into this space. I don't understand why it's all happening, but I don't think it's great. And it's led by, I think all states get to make their own decisions. We're not unified, and we're not asking parents what works best for them. We're not looking at things with a level of fairness. We're not putting a woman out on a football field to play football. You know what I mean? There's things we're not doing, but then there's other things. So I think it's a really slippery slope that we've got to get a handle on. And it's got to be a bummer if you're that young athlete that's coming up and wants that chance, to go to the Olympics or to do something for your school, and then find out, oh, wow, I have a competition that could have an unfair advantage over me.
But you don't agree with males being able to compete, do you? Like, I don't think they should. I have a daughter. If my daughter was racing against a dude, I'm jumping in that water and grabbing his ass up. That's me. I don't know. I just can't. So biomechanically, having a couple master's degrees is just not a fair fight, in my opinion. That's why I can't stand a dude who hits a woman ever. I don't care if you hit me 1,000,000 times, Lisa. I'm never laying my hand on you. I just don't think it is right by any means. I think that's why I call men bitches over women. I
get that. But it's an unfair advantage. And here we are when, you brought up Musk and Twitter. I hope Threads pops off. We know how quickly 100 million people signed up for it. It's a little bit different. We can let Twitter go at this point. We let go of MySpace. We've had other things. Remember the BlackBerry? I mean, we've seen technology come and go, but you can't fire 75% of your staff and expect there to be safety measures there. You can't be bragging about letting all these people out of their jobs, and now he's trying to sue people because they went to work for Threads. Guess what? This is a right to work country, and in California, a right to work state. So I've always liked Elon, up until Twitter. And now
you don't know what to do now. Yeah.
I thought he was great when he was on Saturday Night Live. I have all the sensitive settings on my profile. But what's interesting is when somebody posts something directly to you, it doesn't fall under that sensitive setting. So though when I go to their page to block them, all the sensitive settings are there, but I have to look at dudes masturbating all day and have to 100 at least, and a lot of them don't show their head, and I don't know if it's a minor. I don't know anything about this person, this situation. I don't know if they were forced into this on some sort of a they're getting hustled for money.
Right.
We're seeing sextortion case amongst minors where they're meeting these people on Snapchat. They think they're a girl. They send photos, and then they threaten them, and it's leading to horrible, horrible things with young people. So I just think we need to make a decision. We either put an age gate on social media where it's like Pornhub. You got to click a box that says you're 18, okay? Twitter is now Pornhub, and you don't have to click a box. I worry about young people. I worry about their exposure to content that they don't understand. And I also worry about the graphic nature of what's being produced in the industry with choking and smacking and really aggressive, degrading things. That if that's the first thing they see, that is what they are going to think normal sex is like. And it circles back to 22 states educating with really only 12 educating. I spoke at the Oxford Union in 2019 to prevent England from using porn as sex ed. I don't think porn should be sex ed. Also, I think teachers should be able to talk to parents about when parents are ready to have this conversation. There are educational series out there that they could lean them to. There are blockers they could be putting on their computer. But it was interesting because I had to debate against Dr. Ruth. And I always emulated Dr. Ruth. So to debate against her was so heartbreaking. But I said to her, I don't think you understand the style of graphic content that is being created today. And I think if you saw it, you would realize that there's nothing educational about it.
Lisa, this is a cultural thing, to be honest. Me having grown up in Compton, being one of the only white guys ever and coaching all black players my whole life. and then teaching all girls at an all private Catholic school in LA, the oldest high school in America, Sacred Heart. I've seen this thing. I taught sex ed to all girls. I'm the only guy in the whole school. And you know what I found out? That culturally, right? I know it's a biased conversation, but culturally, porn, unfortunately, is there sex ed like you tried to stay away from? I agree. I'm like, I don't think that should be sex ed. But unfortunately, to the inner city, it was. And that's how crazy it sounds. It sounds crazy, but unfortunately, it was, because we had a lot of single parents who, frankly, didn't monitor their kid. And their kid
They're busy. They're probably working 3 jobs, right?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of a situation.
And their kids
I
are
grew
all
up in that situation. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate, and that's why you don't see the sex ed, I believe. I think it's a lazy way out by administrators, because I don't have to pay a guy to teach it. They're seeing it anyway. That's their excuse, right? They're seeing it anyway.
But there's a missing gap. We're not talking about the fact that, full disclaimer, the testing that goes on in the industry and why they're not using a condom. We're not talking about the fact of the risk of pregnancy at a young age, which can really put you in a stuck situation financially. We're not talking about STDs. Like, there's so many things. Look, the average young man is now watching porn at 11 years old in the United States. I mean, that really is too young. And this is why we have, in 2022 March, the FBI labeled the largest terror group in the United States is actually incels. And they're American. They're here, okay? And incels, because when a young man is 11, about 11 to 13 is when their brain is developing empathy and compassion. And when a young man either goes to extreme aggressive video games at 11 or to porn at 11, they fast track that completely, because now the dopamine that they're getting and the glands that they're stimulating, they start to go through puberty early, but they don't develop. What you'll notice about incels is their chin is usually shaped unusually. There's dark web groups where they punch themselves in the face to get scar tissue to get a chin. They look completely differently. You can match them with every mass shooter in the US has been labeled in that category of incel. This is why it's unhealthy. And this is why we need to add barriers and have parents understanding the impacts of 11-year-old getting addicted to that content and watching it for 4 to 5 hours a day.
Hey, Lisa, what do you say, though, to the parent that are allowing the 14-year-olds to do gender reveals and get married, though?
I mean, this is a slippery slope. I mean, I've got to tell you, when all this, I'm so glad I grew up when I did, because I was such a tomboy, right? Like, to me, I would play catch in the street with my neighbors for hours. I only wore dresses if I was invited to a wedding or a family function, or like I had to wear a dress to church. My dad was like, no, you cannot wear pants, right? So, but like school, I never wore dresses. I wasn't a fancy, I was a tomboy. And imagine that my teachers would have not made me be me. Would have been a scary thing just because I was a sports girl and a tomboy.
No, definitely feel you on that. Lisa, one thing you alluded to earlier, and obviously, we're having a conversation about just the way the industry is now and how kids are getting into the, porn way too soon, way too early. Let me ask you this. If you were 20 years old today, right, in today's era, and you were getting into the adult film industry today, what would you do differently compared to what you did when, back in, the 90s and when, the early years when you did join? Like, the way that the network is, the way OnlyFans work, the way these streamers are working. I don't know if you've seen all the viral news with this what's his name, Adam 22 and Lela The Plug. That thing's been
Yo, AB threw his hat in the mix. Did you see that?
I saw that. We was gonna touch on that.
Finally, we're gonna get AB in porno. I love this.
Hold on. So you're happy. So you're happy about it.
I think, where else can AB go? I mean, I think this is an outlet. You know what I mean? I think, why not? I mean, he's got a brand. I think he would kill it. If AB needs an agent in the industry, I'm in. Okay, I had an agency for 4 years. I'd represent this cat. Okay, because we love crazy in the business. It does the best thing. So I love that, but I don't know if I could actually get in now. I was so lucky in the 90s. We were shooting on film. There was no internet. There wasn't a need for companies to shoot 100 scenes a month. They shot one movie a month. It was a very, very mindful approach. We met, we went over this script. It was usually a 4-day shoot. 2 days were just dialogue. And in the 90s, you know, every single person wanted every woman to stay. So we had the choice. I mean, we had a catering service reach out to us a week before, put together our meals. What do we want to eat on set? Anything you would say to somebody, and I can remember directors that I became very close with, and I would say, do I ever have to do this? They would always say to me, you never have to do anything you don't want to do. You never have to do, like, it was very different. We were celebrated. There was, you know, the laws were very different. When you're doing distribution in the US on VHS, you had to be very careful of what you shipped to certain states because the Bible Belt had different laws. So there were things that if you shot them, somebody's going to jail for 15 years. Like if that got distributed the wrong place. So what it did was it kept everything very vanilla. There were a lot of things like the woman could never look like she was in a power struggle. So there could be no choking, no holding down, nothing aggressive. It had to be consensual both ways and completely mutual and clear the entire time. Back then, bondage was not allowed to have sex. So if you shot a bondage scene, you couldn't have sex because the person was bound and couldn't protect themselves. So I get into the business in the 90s during this like completely fabulous. There was a makeup artist, there was a hair person, there was a stylist. It was glamorous, it was beautiful, it was fun, it was kind, and it was a very small community before the internet. So we all knew each other, we all liked each other, we all hung out. You know, everybody, like, you got on set early just to hang out with the lady guys and catch up with their family, what's going on with them. Like, it was different. When the internet happened, it was very jolting because now it became like the McDonald's of porn, right? Everybody needed like this many scenes. We don't care. We just need a blonde. We don't care about this person's name. And the scenes became a lot more aggressive. A lot more people entered in, which presented a lot more health risks. There were a lot more shutdowns due to health risks. So the volume that we needed once the pop of the internet happened was such a jarring experience. And now I don't think the money is the same. Okay, like if I went back today, the branding I have will always have money, but a new girl getting in, there's thousands of girls trying to get in the business a week because they want to do an OnlyFans now. So it's watered that down. So there's actually less money for the performers until they build that name. And because they're working for companies and production companies less and working more on their own stuff, it is harder for them to build that brand name. So I think my timing was amazing. I don't know how I would fare if I had to be 20 again, entering the business as it is today.
Yeah, I was on Alexis Texas show. I went over to her loft in LA and went on her show, and she kind of mentioned that OnlyFans is kind of crippling the strip clubs too across America.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's very hard for them to get girls. Because
it's crazy. Vegas too, especially Vegas. My buddies run a couple clubs there, and they're like, man, it's going away. Why not though? Why be hounded by some creepy old fucker men when you could be at home by yourself? I mean,
but I'll tell you what. In my world,
keep it real, Lisa.
Cash is king. Okay, so I would still be going into the strip club 2-3 nights a week to make that cash. Okay, like that cash.
Sapphire. We talking about Sapphire. We talking about Sam's Hall, bro. We talking about crazy girls. I mean, come on, JB. JB don't be in the strip club. He don't really know.
Hey, I don't go no more. Hell nah. I don't go no more.
I think you balance it out. You go in there and you make your cash so that you can pay your performers that are working with you on OnlyFans Cash. So that you like, there's a balance there. But yeah, it's definitely different. I also think OnlyFans is making a lot of the performers a lot less social in general. You know, when you get too comfortable making money from home, it can actually put you at a disadvantage in life because you no longer know what it's like to go onto a set with a room of strangers and be social. We had to do that. We had to walk person to person, introduce ourselves. Where are you from? Get to know each other a little bit. You remember something about everybody. So when you see them again, you can ask them that something. Those skills are so important in the rest of your life. And by locking yourself in your home to just create content, when you finally do walk outside, first of all, it's going to be shocking how many people know you. And second of all, it's going to be harder for you to engage and feel comfortable in a room of strangers.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Real.
Lisa, I can't thank you enough for coming on, but I got to give you one last question. Who's winning the Super Bowl?
Ooh.
You know, it's really hard to bet against the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, the moves with wide receivers they make don't even matter. It's Travis Kelce. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's just, as Pat McAfee would say, it's that football brain, right? He's just brilliant. I've been saving the Netflix series for my vacation because I want to watch it uninterrupted. I cannot wait. I'm so excited when I save a show. So I think the Chiefs will definitely go there. I would love to see Aaron Rodgers go to the Super Bowl with the Jets. Okay, I'm, by the way, just finishing his very last book from last year's book club. I got a little behind. I read them all. I love everything about Rodgers and how he exists and how unique he is and how he's always trying to work on his mindfulness. Oh, yes.
Lisa, don't sleep, Lisa.
Come on now.
So, you know, I'd love to see that matchup, right? But Lamar Jackson's going to have a great season. The addition of Odell, everybody forgets about Odell because of the timing of his injury and him not playing last season. There's teams that we're writing off already that we're looking at. Like, I don't really think I'm expecting much from Tampa Bay. I don't really think I'm expecting much from the Raiders. So it's easier to start to eliminate teams, but Justin Herbert could really surprise us. Okay. You know, new play caller there helps a lot. Justin Fields could surprise us. We got Josh Allen. And then the Super Bowl last year. I mean, you can't think the Eagles might not have another run in them as well, but losing two coordinators concerns me a bit and gives me a little bit of pause.
We shall see.
You are great. You know, all this stuff is unbelievable. I saw you on series. I had to watch some stuff and do some research. I was like, I can't be ignorant. Ignorance is life threatening. So I go, I gotta know some stuff about Lisa, what she's talking about. And your series channel is good. I got a couple people on the Discord that watch your show daily. So shout out to you for what you're doing. Kudos to you. I can't thank you enough for you and Big Smitty's relationship coming on. I hope the merch line goes well. And I can't thank you enough. And as you leave here, what is the future hold? Like, are you aspiring to do something in particular that no one else knows, or are you content right now?
Well, I have my own brand of wine coming over from Sicily right now. It will be in the U.S. going through customs the next week or two. So one of the things I'm adding into my world is wine. It's going to allow me to still do events at the venues that I do, but wine tastings are earlier in the day. And there comes to a point by 55, I do not want to be out at events past 10 p.m. So I'm 51 right now. That gives me a good run here. I'll always be doing fantasy football. I'm hosting a ton of best ball drafts on Fan Tracks. I'll always be doing fantasy football. I'll always be doing sports betting. I'll always doing NBA. I'd love to go to the Masters. Things sports-wise I want to do. But adding wine in is really a new thing for me, and it's going to help me get out there. And also it gives my girlfriends and I an excuse to go on winery vacations and do research. I mean, everything's a tax deduction. Once you have wine, you know,
all right, Lisa, 51. I'm 47. You made me look like shit. Thanks. Hey, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate you for coming on, and I hope you do it again sometime. You got to bring me on your show.
Sounds like a plan. We'll talk a lot through the NFL season, and let's go Cowboys.
Oh man. Wow.
Appreciate you. Thank you. See you later.
I agree.
Lisa Ann.